6 minutes past the hour, and the show is Your World. Good to have you this morning. I hope that you're keeping warm. It's quite chilly right here in Nairobi, so I hope that you're warm wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today our conversation is on paving the path to inclusion, and it's all about moving towards a digital economy, and this is as far as Mastercard's community pass is concerned. Of course, we'll be delving deeper into that conversation in a second. Because imagine a world where innovation and technology improve the lives of those who need it. And well, this is a reality for some. Many have been excluded, and this is because as the rest of the world is quickly digitizing, remote communities are left behind, and they are largely invisible with no digital identity, no data records, and in many cases, inconsistent connectivity or electricity. So today, like I said on the show, we discuss Mastercard's Community Pass program and how it provides solutions to communities as well as businesses who really need them. So you want to stick around until the end of the show to understand what that is all about and how you can actually benefit from the same. But to give us more context, we are joined this morning by Mr. Daniel Huber, who is the Vice President, Community Pass Market Development, Sub-Saharan Africa. This is from Mastercard. Good to have you this morning. Long title.
Thanks very much.
Very good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
The weather has changed.
Yes, all of a sudden. I left the house and it was chilly, right?
Right.
Drizzling a bit.
I mean,
but
yeah.
I think it's all for the good. And I think for the people we're going to talk about today,
yeah,
it means only good things.
And I'm pretty sure they're very happy this morning.
Indeed,
yeah.
Indeed.
All right. So thank you so much for making time for us. And again, some of us might know Mastercard, and lots of people would know Mastercard. But just in case someone who is interacting with Mastercard, first of all, as a brand, before we narrow down to Community Pass and who get to benefit from the same, can we just understand, what is at Mastercard's core and the values and why such conversations are important to you?
Thanks very much, Winnie. Again, it's a pleasure to be here once again. Yeah. Mastercard is the largest, payment technology company in the world, I would dare say. Mm-hmm. And what we do at Mastercard is really to work with individuals and businesses to be able to power payments, right? And we don't just power payment for individuals, we also do that for businesses. Yeah. And from a vision perspective, what we want to see Mastercard is really a world beyond cash. Right. And that is a clarion call for us. Mm-hmm. How can we be able to leverage the tools and capabilities that we have built to allow individuals and businesses to seamlessly transact in a way in which it's secure, enabling them to be able to move from one point to another, to be able to receive a service. And a number of our key partners include financial institutions. So many times when you walk with your card and go and transact at an airport,
almost all of us have that.
Somebody would ask you, do you have a Mastercard, right? So we are associated with the card. Yeah. But think about it, the technology that powers that card. That's really what Mastercard does.
Okay,
yes.
I see that. And again, one of the things that we usually talk about is convenience and convenience in all aspects, and especially now in this digital era where we just want to probably sit down at home and have access to all the services that we need, right? Yes. But again, like we're saying, we need to also move around here and there, not just be sedentary. But then understanding how important then access to services and access to quality service at that matter is very important to Mastercard. So what are some of the gaps that Mastercard has identified that you figured, it's time that we provide solutions to this, and then we'll focus a little bit on Community Pass, and especially to the farmers who, like you said, are very happy this morning with the change of weather.
And if you look at the world and the changes that we're seeing in the world, and let's just take an African lens for that manner. If you look at, for example, our African communities today, out of every 10 people today in Africa, 6 of them are individuals that are transacting informally, right? All right. A number of them are transacting offline, so they are not even being seen as they transact. The second point that we've seen as critical also is that, as much as we in Kenya here, we are proud we have a national ID that is working. Yeah. If you take the African footprint, right, a lot of people still don't have any form of identification. Okay. So close to 30% of the population in Africa do not have a formal identity in them, right? Yeah. Now, the lack of the identity of the individual, the lack of connectivity of this individual becomes limiting factor for them to transact whether it is to a financial institution, whether it is into their day-to-day lifestyles. And those are the challenges we've seen as Mastercard. And we are quickly then realizing that if we remain focused only to those that are included, you and I, who have a bank account, then we are missing the point.
Sure.
That a majority of people are actually transacting, but they are doing that offline. So these are the challenges that we are taking, in front of us and asking ourselves as Mastercard, what can we do to unlock the potential of these individuals so that we bring them into the digital world. And bring them to the digital world is basically to empower them to be able to transact. And that is really what drives us. So it's beyond that card payment. It's beyond that bank account. It's beyond that access to a phone to be able to transact. To all the 360 view of your life as you wake up in the morning, as you take your child to school, as you take your children for immunization, for example. How do we help digitize that journey? And that's what we really want to.
And I like that about. Because, again, at the end of the day, we are living in a digital world. We cannot wish it away. If anything, it keeps changing and keeps getting better by the day. So the best we could do is have almost everybody included and not leaving anyone behind. So among so many innovations and projects and programs is the Community Pass program, right? So first of all, let's just get to understand what exactly is the Community Pass initiative.
Yes, so, Mastercard looked at the world, like I said, and to be able to respond to the challenges of the underserved individuals and businesses. We created a business we call Community Pass. So Community Pass is a social enterprise. So it's a business within the main business. And what we really do at Community Pass really is how do we facilitate and how do we enable transactions for individuals and businesses in underserved communities. And we do that through the power of technology. That's really what we do. And we've built a platform that is interoperable, that it's basically a shared infrastructure that allows people to be reached at a reduced cost. We are making it possible for service providers beyond financial institutions to find it easier to reach these individuals in remote villages, to reach these individuals in underserved communities, to reach these businesses that are informal in nature. So to power that segment and that type of business, that is the very reason why Community Pass exists. All right. So someone is watching us and trying to understand. So then how exactly does that work? Because again, like I said in one of our conversations, my grandmother is very, very a big fan of the show, right? Yes. We don't want her to miss out on anything. So to make it easier for me and her and so many other people who are watching us this morning to understand how exactly Community Pass works, what would you say? So let's break it down. The first thing that we do at Community Pass is look at the individual and provide that individual what we call a credential. Basically, a unique identifier for your mom, right? So your grandma, how do we make sure that beyond the national ID, which we all know, how do we provide something we call a functional identity, basically a credential that when they show up at a shop, they are not asked, remove your ID so that I sell you bread. No. That what they are asked is that, do you have a Mastercard with you? Now, that Mastercard that your grandmother will be able to release as she gets into a shop has something in it we call a unique credential. It basically identifies your grandmother. It identifies her as a transacting individual, as a business person, as a farmer, for example. So it begins there through giving you a credential or an identity. That's the first step we do. Then the second thing that we're able to do then is how do we build what we call a digital profile. Basically, a track record of who you are as a farmer, a track record of who you are as a trader, a track record of who you are as an informal worker, for example. Because you are a transacting individual. You buy things. You're able to pay for things. Unfortunately, financial institutions don't see that because they only wait for you to open an account with them. So what Community Pass basically does is to allow you to record those profiles into your Community Pass card, for example. So that's the second thing that we offer you. The third thing is, how do we make sure that your grandmother, when she's going to get her inputs, for example, she is not dependent on connectivity, that there has to be data or phone connectivity for her credential to be identified. So when she shows up at the agro-dealer shop, the agro-dealer will not say, let's wait, we don't have power today. Or we don't have internet today, so we're not able to serve you. No, we are able to do that in an offline environment, that you show up, you can be identified, we can know actually you have been farming for a period of time, and now you need input. So offline as a core offering of part of the capability is critical. Then the fourth thing we do then is having effectively identified your grandma as a farmer, known what she does or how she practices. Now what we do is that we target that service provider where she goes to buy her inputs, where she goes to take her milk, for example, at that cooperative. Those entities are what we call the acceptance point, people who are able to accept her credential and offer her a service. So what do we do to those acceptance points? We also give them a technology in their hands based on an Android device, so they can be able to transact with your grandmother. Again, not dependent on connectivity, so it can be able to work anytime, everywhere. Bottom line is we want to make sure that individuals have continuity of service that is not dependent on either a data connectivity. And also importantly, that it's cost effective, so that we're not telling our people in the villages and across Africa that you must have a smartphone for you to be able to be part of this digital ecosystem. No, a community pass credential is the gateway to that greater digital future for all, regardless of whether you went to school or not, whether you have an account or not. That's really what Community Pass does.
I like that. So 3 million plus people, right, on Community Pass have benefited from the same. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So we have about 3.5 million people on the Community Pass ecosystem today. About 2.5 million of those are in Africa. Right? And in Africa, you know, we've really seen the growth since the COVID time, right? And COVID was a moment that changed how we view the world, right? And for the 2.5 million people we have on Community Pass ecosystem today are spread across 3 countries. So in Kenya here, we're very proud that we are working with Cooperative Bank, right? And with Cooperative Bank, we are helping them digitize really the farming ecosystem. How do we professionalize those cooperatives? And how do we bring them into the digital world to better transact beyond payment? So here we work with about 800,000 farmers in Kenya through Cooperative Bank. In Uganda, we work with close to 1 million farmers. And those farmers are then supported through a fintech we work with there called Your Uganda. We also work with DFC Bank, one of the financial institutions there. And we are also having a very interesting program that is targeted at the tech community in Uganda. So enabling them to be able to consume Community Pass to enhance their own offering. So young people who are developing solutions in Uganda through our Community Pass partnership program are able to roll out. Then in Tanzania, we're very proud of our partnership with 2 players. We have Digital Mobile Africa there, and we have Celcom, who are our partners in Tanzania. Now, that is our footprint in the East African region. We are going now expanding that, you know, to other markets. So we're going into Ethiopia this year. Very proud. In Q4 of this year, we'll be in Ethiopia going live, and similar thing we're going to do in Ghana. And that's not just the stop. I think that for us there is a potential to reach the entire Africa. In fact, our ambition, if you look at it, if I take the Mastercard view, for example, we want to include 1 billion people as Mastercard digitally by 2025.
Big goal.
A huge, audacious goal. 50 million of small businesses, and about 50% of those being women-led business. So that is Mastercard as a whole. So we are saying as Community Pass, within that, in Africa alone, in the next 5 years, we want to move from where we are today to reach about 15 million people on the Community Pass ecosystem that is not dependent, again, on connectivity on a device on your hand or internet.
Absolutely. I mean, our lives do not have to stop, really, at this point, because we cannot access services because of some of these, you know, hurdles that we face. Okay, so farmers, special emphasis on farmers. First question is why? Why a special emphasis on the farmers, and then we'll get more into, you know, other businesses as well.
You know, farmers really are the reason why you and I are here today. They're the reason who, you know, they're the people behind powering our economies. If you look at most African countries, the largest GDP contributor comes from agriculture. It is the largest workforce provider for most of governments in Africa today. And importantly, it is what feeds the nation and feeds the world. So touching farmers for us was critical as Mastercard because we knew that that one segment has a ripple effect across the entire ecosystem. But importantly, farming is critical because it has been left behind. So if you look at the financial access in the agriculture ecosystem, look at any surveys, any reports out there, it's only 3% of credit that is going into the ag segment. Only 3%, really. And that's pretty low. The adoption of credit is very low in the agriculture segment. And if you ask people, why is it that financial institutions are not providing credit to enable business in agriculture, they tell you that our farmers are invisible. We cannot know who they are, where they are, and what they do. And that sounds for me like déjà vu sometimes, because I remember my life being raised in Kitale. My mother, who is a maize farmer, right? We remember working so hard every day and going to the farm and queuing at the National Cereals Produce Board, right? At 4 a.m. in the morning to be able to secure a slot for our maize to go in that time, right? For all that work, and then you said you're invisible. That my mother cannot be seen by a financial institution to qualify for a credit, right? That just tells you the story. Your grandmother, similar things. How do we make sure that these hard-working individuals, men and women in the ag segment, that they are known, that we are able to digitize their profiles, digitize their transactions, and actually liberate and liberalize the definition of transaction beyond payments. So transaction is not just payment. We actually call it live transaction in Mastercard because we are looking at other elements that facilitate that transaction. That is the reason why we chose ag. That if we unlock the challenges of agriculture, if we are able to provide a digital profile of the farmers, we shall unlock opportunity to access credit. That's number one. Number two, we shall unlock an opportunity to be able to get quality inputs. Because if we improve on productivity at the farm level, we are performing under our capabilities as farmers. And if there is input that is provided to these particular farmers to improve that productivity, then they'll have a good yield. With that good yield, how do we connect them to market? And when you connect them to market, exactly. When you connect them to market, now they have a profile of who they are. The marketers or the agribusinesses are not dependent on the traders and middlemen to reach the farmer. Because guess what? These farmers now have a digital profile. They are part of a digital ecosystem. And you as an agribusiness can now serve them and not be able to depend on too many layers. These things in our view, if we are able to correct them and do our job well, will not just improve livelihoods, will improve economic performance, and will be able to have a better world because people can feed and do it in a commercially sustainable way.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've had, it's very interesting that saying you're coming from Kitale and understanding all these issues. I'm just sitting here and be like, yep, coming from Kitale as well, totally understand some of the challenges that farmers go through as well. And there's also this huge thing about middlemen and farmers not getting value, for their money, having to just settle for whatever is available, because at the end of the day, you need this yield to go somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to experience all the losses. So many farmers have suffered from, the hands of the middlemen. These people who just come rip them off, unfortunately, and all those things. So is this one of the things that, Mastercard, through the community farm pass, that is able to solve as well, so that they get value for the produce as well?
So it's unfortunate that there are too many layers between the farmer and the final market.
The final market, yes.
And if you look at a number of our crops, if you take maize as an example, if you take the horticulture sector, for example, if you go into dairies even, which is a very organized value chain, because there are many players in between, farmers get the least value, to your point. Sometimes even 3 times less what is paid to the trader. Now, what we are doing from a community perspective is to be able not to vilify the traders and the middlemen. That's not really the point. The point is there are a number of the middlemen, or traders for that matter, who are doing a good job in that they try to connect the market forces, connect the off-taker from the farmer. Now, for those that are doing that connection point, how are they doing it in an organized way? In our view, is a number of them are doing it through the aggregation units. So they are aggregators, for example. So for those aggregators, what we are doing is providing them an option within Community Pass to digitize the aggregation business. So that it's easier for them to know, have visibility of what's available at farm gate. Now, the thing we also do is that at the farmer level, we're also giving the ability to be able to know what is being paid for by the off-takers. So there's price visibility at the farm level to be able to know, as a farmer, I have options. I am not only dependent to the person showing up on my farm to be able to buy it. So when you provide the visibility of who the off-takers are, when you provide the visibility of what prices are available, when you provide the visibility of what other services that you can be able to get, you're empowering that farmer. You're empowering the value chain actors. And basically, you are distributing value across the value chain. Because there is value in agriculture. I mean, the challenge is it's not distributed fairly. So as a platform of trust, from a community perspective, our goal is to ensure that that value is being distributed across the ecosystem. We don't want to rip anyone off. We want to enable the chain. And that efficiency and traceability that we enable in the chain makes the value chain effective and functioning and also sustainable in the long run.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, aside from being, again, they're not visible, right? Do not have a digital footprint and all those things. Are there some of the challenges that more unique to small holder farmers as compared to maybe large scale? And again, to that effect, so then how does Community Pass come in to solve that? So that, again, like you said, at the end of the day, we want service, quality service at that matter, but at the same time, no challenges here and there in terms of accessing what exactly you need. And this special case, the farmers.
Yes, so if you look at the large farms, the advantage they've had is that because they have a very stronger relationship with the banks and financial institutions.
It's easy for them to get
It's easy for them to get credit. And they can walk into one bank today and say, by the way, what interest rate are you giving me? You give them a figure, they walk to the next bank. Because they are a large-scale farmer. Actually, the bank comes to them. You know, when they're a corporate customer of the bank, they even have a relationship manager.
That's true.
Who calls them and finds out from them when is the next season coming and what facility do we need to provide for you. They even order calendars and things sent to them. What about our smallholder farmers? First of all, they're even not known, right? That they are transacting, like we said. So they don't have that special relationship manager from the bank. Okay. Now, what are we doing to be able to make sure that the unique situation that they face is addressed? So remember, we said by giving them a digital profile, you suddenly open a world of opportunity. So because we are that bridge to what we are calling a great digital future, for us, the idea then is with your digital profile, we then are able to allow you, the farmer, to access multiple services. So remember, we are building an ecosystem. This ecosystem has different players. There are multiple financial institutions who are coming to it. There are multiple agri-buyers who are coming to it. There are multiple input providers. But because you are now available at the ecosystem, you have options that we've given you as a farmer. That's number one. Number two, we are working every day because these banks and financial institutions are also our partners as Mastercard. And we've worked with them for decades. What we are doing is we are giving them the opportunity to also look at agriculture differently. That there is data beyond an account. That this individual has been transacting. The only difference, you have not been seeing the transaction. So you have the opportunity now to see and judge this particular individual more in a fairer way because you have visibility of their crop, you have visibility of where they sell their crop, you have visibility of what sort of inputs they are putting it, and you have visibility of the length of time. Now, there's also related segments. That the farmer today is also taking their children to school. That the farmer today is also a young mother who's taking their child for vaccination. Now, as opposed to a situation whereby for every of this particular service provider, you have to re-register afresh. Remember that one credential we gave you? It's again used in multiple places. So you're having that 360 life of the farmer. And because of that, opening opportunities for them. And now financial institutions and service providers see that this is a less riskier person because I'm not the only one dealing with the farm. The agribusiness does, the input provider does, the school actually does, the clinic neighborhood there is also dealing with the same farm. So I know who they are and where they are.
Absolutely. So one of the things that a lot of people will be concerned about is then the security and privacy of the same farmer who needs to access all these services without having to go through all these hurdles. So then again, so what about that? What exactly is the Community Pass, and again, Mastercard in this sense, doing to ensure that, yes, in as much as we want to provide convenience and opportunity and you know, for you to get access and also get people to sort of like know you and know your products and all those things, that your data is safe with us as well. So I think we'll have that conversation after the break. But again, if you're watching us this morning and have so many questions or any questions that you have as far as Mastercard's Community Pass program is concerned, feel free to send them our way at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and we'll be sampling them before we end the show. But for now, let's take that break. See you shortly.
Acne's Creamy Wash is a foamy and gentle cleanser that removes sebum and dirt in the pore. Step 2. Acne Soothing Toner maintains skin pH. Step 3. Acne Sealing Gel quickly clears pimple-causing bacteria. The latent acne clears, cares, and helps prevent pimple.
Benefits of ordering with Glovo. Glovo allows you to order anything you want at the comfort and convenience of your home. Craving fried chicken or pilau or pizza? Easy and simple. Order on Glovo today. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes. With Glovo, you order anything unataka, and when you get it una celebrate because kukuchoma imefika, na wakati keki inafika ndio sherehe inaanza. Order Glovo, will deliver in minutes.
Show off your best skin with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. Now with 5-in-1 Complete Care. The deeply nourishing formula prevents your skin from drying, with precious cocoa butter and deep moisture for smooth and healthy looking skin. Step out in confidence with our most complete care from the world's #1 skincare brand.
Imagine 10 people you know and love. Imagine if any of them needed blood immediately. This is a reality. Every 10 minutes, 10 people in Kenya need blood. Be it a mother in a maternity ward, an accident case, a surgery, or even a lifelong medical condition. These people need your help. Why don't you be their hero? Your timely voluntary blood donations will ensure our blood banks never dry up. Save a life today. Donate blood regularly at a county blood donation satellite near you. Changia damu, okoa maisha. Be the lifeline. Own your dream home for as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings in Vipingo Kilifi. SMS Vipingo to 22365 or call us today on 0740 400 215. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, welcome back. 36 minutes past the hour, and the show is Your World. And today, again, we're focusing on how we're paving way and path, rather, and this is to inclusion. And we are focusing on moving towards digital economy, and this is as far as Mastercard's community pass is concerned, but with a special emphasis on the farm pass, right? And before we went on a break again, we're just trying to understand how this helps to solve a lot of issues and challenges that so many, and especially smallholder farmers face. But the biggest question was, again, in as much as you're providing this service, which is absolutely amazing, and making sure that these people have a digital identity, but then again, when it comes to their safety and privacy, what happens?
Now, and you raise a very fundamental question, and really it's a moment that we must always think about as we go through the digital journey, right? And Mastercard brings to itself decades of experience managing data, right? And data security, data privacy, and data protection are key tenets that really inform how we work as Mastercard. Not just from thinking of designing products, but how we actually roll those products out in the market. That if you look at the way we manage our contracts, for example, and how we work with our partners, right, we are cascading that down. We actually call it franchise rules, basically creating the rules of the game to make sure that as you join the community pass ecosystem, you're playing within the rules. And those rules are defined by the various regulations cast out by governments in the markets we work with to make sure that individuals who own their own data are respected. Point number one. Point number two, that people are made aware of what they actually know about their rights to that data. So we spend a lot of time as Mastercard educating our consumers around their data rights. So they are aware of what it means to be able to give their data and how we work with our partners to pass that knowledge. I think that's extremely critical. The third point we do there is how do we manage the entire consent to ensure that data is not just stored and used for the sake of it, that there's actually consent that is enabled as part of rolling out that data. And there's a whole global practice right now around data minimalization, that how do you only take data that it's enough for the purpose that is meant to do, right? And when you apply all these principles, when you roll out solutions, then you're on the better side of it. Then the last point to raise around data is how do we also make sure that we are on top of our game from an innovation perspective against breaches, right? And we have enforced that. So the same way your card is secure when you transact, the same way you are confident with your financial transaction in the bank account, we are bringing the same agility, visibility, and support to the entire community pass ecosystem of how we roll in data. So rest assured.
I mean, yes, but there's always that like potential risk that sometimes again we're caught unawares, right? So everything put in place just to make sure that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, your data is secure. Everything has been put in place. Okay, definitely. I hear you. And point that you raised as well, and this is as far as educating these farmers, number one, to understand their rights. What are some of the things that they said or the feedback that you got? Because a lot of people don't know their rights to even say no to some of the things that they are asked, and they can refuse to give. So what are some of the things that some of these farmers that you interacted with said, you know what, we actually didn't know about this and that. This is as far as their rights are concerned.
And it's a good question. For us, really, we are looking at community pass not just from rolling out another solution in the market. Right. It's important for us to be able to embed the culture of digital inclusivity and trust. That if you're building the trust with the people along the journey as to why you are digitizing, right? You then make them the champions of digitization. They own their own path to digitization. So what we are hearing a lot from the farmers and what we are hearing around from the rural consumers, not just the farmers, is the fact that they didn't know, right? They didn't know that this actually is possible. They didn't know that they have a right to say no to services so that they're not spams, for example. So one of the basic tools, for example, is an opt-in option where as I register for a service through my cooperative, right, I need to be able to give consent to either opt-in or opt-out of it. And because there's an opt-in and opt-out option, you have a right as a farmer, as an individual, to inform your cooperative, no, I don't want it anymore. Stop. I don't want more messages that are telling me. I have had enough. You have the right to be able to do that. The other thing that we've also realized quickly is many people and many individuals are also not sure of the value of the data that they have. So for me as a farmer, how valuable is my data around the inputs I use, around my projected yield, around how much I'm actually selling? That this is a gold mine. That I can actually be able to create my worth to know. If I bought input worth $100 in the season, I was able to sell my crop at $200, $300. I actually have transacted close to $400 worth of transaction. It is a beginning point for conversation with a financial institution. So the value of the data that they hold was a missing point. And then the last thing that we also saw was just sheer fear. Fear of the unknown.
The illness is there. When it comes to like change or something being introduced,
we were rolling out in Tanzania. I wouldn't name the actual place, but we had a very interesting point. So we went through with our partner to digitize the pyrethrum value chain of Tanzania. And what happened is that the farmer through their various cooperatives were organized into awareness forums, so groups to introduce the idea of digitization. And that was done very successfully. We were able to participate, work with our partners, and really preach the gospel of digitization, as we call it. And at the end of the sermon of digitization, people are converted, and they got in, and they were able to give their consent to be part of the ecosystem. But there was one person who was not very happy. So the agent or the middleman who was there had a lot of power. Because in the past, what used to happen, these agribusinesses we worked with depended on him to pay the farmers. Right?
I see.
So it was at his beck and call. So what used to happen practically was he would receive the money, right? And intentionally stay with the money for up to 2-3 days in his house before he pays the farmer.
And even paying them, it's him who decides how
much.
He
decides when, how much. He says, you think I can pay you X, right? Now, with this opening of digitization, he saw a threat. And what did he do? He started telling farmers that actually technology is witchcraft. That how can you be able to have a digital weight being recorded? How can you be paid through the digital world and you're not seeing the money physically? And he was spreading that. And there was that fear of how is technology being associated with witchcraft? And you see that unknown and going out to break that barrier of understanding what technology brings. And what we did basically is more sensitization. And when the farmers knew the opportunities and the fact that they were being cheated by the middleman, they are actually the ones who removed him and said, no, you are no longer going to be our agent. We will now deal directly with the off-taker. Absolutely.
And I mean, like you said, giving them total control because they're the ones who put in so much work to make sure that they get better yields, and it's only fair that they have sort of like total control when it comes to their products or the services as well. So let's talk about some of the success stories as well, because like we said, more than 3 million people, on the Community Pass program, and like you said, more than what, 2.4 in Africa?
2.5 million.
2.5 million. So let's talk about some of these success stories. What are the farmers happy about with the Community Farm Pass?
Good. So let's start with Kenya. So let's start with home, right? Very proud of our partnership with Cooperative Bank. And what we've seen, for example, through the 800,000 farmers that we've just digitized, is the ability to improve the KYC process. Okay? That process is now faster, that many of these farmers have their full KYC details available. And today they're enjoying increased banking services from Coop Bank as a result of digitization. So we've opened new opportunities because we shortened the period of time to be able to identify, profile, and reach these farmers. So a great uptake when it comes to credit facilities, a great uptake when it comes to partnership for input provision, for example. We are seeing a lot of partners flocking Cooperative Bank today to open doors to try and then reach out those farmers. We are seeing, interesting partners who want to go in green lending, for example, to assist some of the farmers. So we're seeing a lot of that in Kenya. If I pick Uganda, for example, the other market that we are in, very interesting stats that are coming through. Very proud that this year, actually, for the first time, the grains farmers who are under our Community Pass platform were able to secure a partnership with the Grain Council of Uganda to be able to obtain. And as we speak, they are facilitating orders close to $10 million worth of produce that the off-taker is looking for because of digitization, the power of visibility in that digitization program. If I look at Tanzania, for example, the other market where we are in, we are seeing a very huge uptake for the sunflower farmers, right? And through our partnership with Heifer International, we are empowering these sunflower farmers, which was a forgotten crop. Very important because of oil, edible oil is extremely important. There is actually not enough production in the market. They have to import. And now there's an opportunity for those farmers to really access better markets. We are actually opening up doors for them right now to also get identification at their cooperative level. So those are some of the successes that are coming out. And let me just lastly talk about Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, you know, the idea is not just to talk about farming. In Ethiopia, we're also going into the healthcare space. So what we are seeing is that the digitization of health records and giving the power to the individuals in their hand to be able to have their health records in their hand is something that they're really excited about. No more fear that if I don't go to the facility and I move to another town, I have to go back and get all my record. That with my card, with a tap experience, all my record is now available in the new facility.
And on a larger scale again, because like you said, it goes beyond just transaction, right? So for generally in a person's life, and especially for a farmer, because like you said, they can access health services, they can access, you know, all these other services that they need. So on a larger scale, how much of improvement has the community pass had on their lives? Because it's one thing, yes, it's good that they're able to access credit, but aside from that, how has this improved their livelihoods generally, and just well-being in general, really?
Indeed, indeed. So if you look at a lot of our studies that are now just coming in, right? So we're looking at, for example, on the input side, so we're looking at productivity. So anything between 20 to 25% improved yield that we are seeing from the farmers who are in the ecosystem, right? When you look at access to market, right? We are seeing farmers getting up to double the prices they're used to getting before, right? And we are seeing those coming in right now. And we're sure as we build the ecosystem, we'll not just see doubling of incomes, like we are seeing right now in the trend we're seeing, improving of the yield. We are also seeing diversification. That a lot of our farmers now are also linking this into micro trade, for example. So the micro traders in the villages, the shops that are upping up in the villages, and the area that now is becoming of big interest, for example, in Tanzania, is how do we also support these merchants, the small traders who are dealing with these farmers, and how do we also build a track record for them so they can be able to get facilities. So these are some of the emerging successes we're seeing.
That you're seeing. Just curious, because majority of the times when we talk about farmers, sometimes we tend to forget the pastoral communities because they're also transacting, right?
That's true.
They're selling their livestock in exchange for, let's say, money to feed their families, take their children to school. So are these one of the areas that you're also looking to explore, or maybe have you, as Mastercards and through the Community Pass, explored as well?
Yes. So in fact, a good point you raised, because our partnership with Heifer International, which is one of the largest NGOs here, is driven by that. And one of the areas we saw very critically is that if you look at the livestock area, segment, for example, a lot of dairy and beef, actually, right? The trade that happens in beef is very much barter trade, to your point. And going back to our earlier conversation, it's all informal trade.
True.
Thousands and thousands of shillings worth of trade happens, right? But because informal, no one knows it. So our partnership with Heifer is going to help us unlock that. And we want to move into the arid and semi-arid area of the country, targeting the livestock value chain very strongly. And that's something we'll do in Kenya, and we'll continue to open it up into other regions too.
All right. Other areas that you're looking to tap into? Because there's so much that is happening in the country, as far as not just farming, but also other businesses as well.
So one area that I like to speak about also is, which is critical, is the micro-commerce. Okay.
We're seeing a crop of that now.
And if you look at the trends and a lot of this, the things that are coming through our world today, when you look at rural communities, look at the peri-urban areas, there's a lot of micro trade that is happening in that particular segment. And what are we doing there? From a community perspective, again, innovatively, we found a way in which we can provide both the individual consumer and a micro trader an ability to transact, not dependent on connectivity. So again, power into their small shop to be able to capture transactions, right? To be able to digitize whether they are paying in for goods, whether they are selling out goods, and how do you create a track record of that. So micro-commerce is an area we're going big into to open up the trade, to digitize that particular trade, to then provide credit into the ecosystem. And how do we provide credit into the ecosystem? Because of the digitization of the trade, financial institutions then have a reason to be able to lend there, because there's a track record of that trade. So that is an area we're going into very strongly. So our partnership, for example, with Celcom in Tanzania is driven by that. And the idea is with in our partnership with Celcom is how do we open up the merchant space, the small trader space, to make sure that digitization is happening there, that those small merchants also become part of the financial ecosystem for cash in, cash out, for payment of services, and to also receive credit themselves as part of the trading being. And if you do that well, look at a world where, for example, our shops in the villages also become bank agent, become financial agents. So that agro dealer, that hardware shop, that a small trader that is happening a small shop can also be a service point. And because you've digitized and you've been able to standardize the gadget in their hand, making it secure, it's possible to layer in multiple services. So again, that's an area we'll be going into quite strongly.
I like that. I mean, if you're living in the country, also what happened over the weekend, a lot of businesses we do experience major losses because, again, like you said, one of the things, power. So this is good to hear, solving one of the issues that businesses really does not have to stop simply because we have this challenge going on. Okay, I can see our time is far much spent, but looking at the future and a bigger goal, and this is as far as the Community Pass initiative is concerned, what are we looking at?
So quite ambitious again. So within Community Pass itself, we are challenging ourselves to say that by 2027, so 5 years from now, we would like to get 15 million people into the Community Pass ecosystem. We would like to get thousands of businesses transacting into that ecosystem. We are seeing ourselves expanding into the African market. So like I said, we're in 3 countries now, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. We will be launching Ethiopia in this year actually, hopefully Ghana the same. And out of that, Nigeria in very short order. So that's what we like to see growing. The second thing that I think looking into the future would like to be able to also emphasize more is how do we make sure that as we digitize and build prosperity for these individuals, that also we're improving livelihoods and incomes. Because remember, from a Community Pass perspective, we have a dual mandate. Not just commercial results, but also impact. Right? So that we are leaving our people better because they have better incomes. And we'd like to be able to track that and have a gender lens to that, to be able to see how much are we doing for our women-led businesses as much as we are growing in this particular region.
All right. So 5 years is not too far from now, right? I mean, time flies. We're almost singing Christmas songs in the next 2 months or so. So I'm just curious in terms of some of the strategies that Community Pass has put in place to make sure that, yes, by 2027, like you said, we have 15 million people on Community Pass. And you said 1 billion, and this is across
globally. That's Mastercard.
So what are some of these strategies? Again, without giving too much away, because we also have to protect that part as well.
It's fair. It's a fair question. So a couple of things that we've put in place. We really believe in the power of partnership, right? And for us, Community Pass is a bridge, right, to that greater digital future for individuals, communities, and businesses. And whoever believes in that mission joins along. So we're very proud that, for example, we work with a lot of international organizations. So we're very proud of our partnership with USAID. So if you look at our work, for example, in Ethiopia, in the healthcare space, we work very strongly with USAID. We also work very strongly with the Gavi, the Global Vaccination Alliance, to be able to roll out in the immunization programs in Mauritania, Ethiopia, and expanding that. So partnership with multilateral organizations, USAID, Gavi. Partnership with the international NGOs. So our work with Heifer International is quite strong, and we are adding other international NGOs into the ecosystem. And the third one is really partnership with the private sector. So because banks and financial institutions, not just banks, are already our partner customers as Mastercard, we are joining hands together into rolling out and working with them. So a lot of partnership is critical. The last thing that we also do is really investing into building the skill set of our people. So we have programs that are targeted to the ex-tech communities to be able to bring them on board, what we are calling the Community Partnership Program, targeting the technology companies that are operating in last mile. We believe powering that and enabling more tech companies so that we are not the only ones doing it would be able to help us accelerate. And of course, you can never forget to mention government. That really, we hold government very dear in terms of our strategy and how we move forward. So we have very continuous engagement with government across the African continent to ensure that we are working with them to extend this particular work in the various countries.
And like you said earlier on awareness, this is pretty much key, because again, it's one thing to have the technology, but then if the people are not receptive to the technology because they don't know what the technology is all about, so we cannot underscore the power of partnerships. Really see that. Bigger goal, 2023, the goal was to digitally enable over 1 million farmers. Surpass that already?
Yes.
Yes.
We did.
Okay. Yes. All right. And especially for the smallholder farmers, again, like we said, and aside from empowering them digitally and also giving them the tools that they need, I'm just curious in terms of the bigger goal, specifically for the smallholder farmers who are probably watching us this morning and saying, okay, I see what you're doing.
So if you look at the majority, when you talk about the 15 million people we want to reach in the next 5 years, in Africa, many of those will be smallholder farmers. Because a lot of our smallholder farmers are also the small micro traders in our rural communities, right? So a majority of the people we reach are going to be farmers. And we continue to see, even if the numbers out of the 2.5 million we reach, 80% of that number are smallholder farmers. The others are micro consumers. So one is continuous engagement with these farmers over the next couple of years, and that's actually over the next decade. So that is one promise I'd like to give. We will continuously want to work with those farmers and continue to focus into that segment. I think the other thing that I'd like to tell the farmers is that how do we make sure that digitization provides a path to financial security? It's not just inclusion for me, because digital inclusion is a foundation to then financial inclusion, which is basically opening an account, you have an account. Now we want to transcend our farmers to the next level of financial security, that because we are capturing transactions beyond payment, they have a better relationship with financial institutions. They are seen as business people. And if we transform our farmers to be viewed as business people, then they have better facilities, they have better terms. So for me, those are the things I like to see, and how do we work with our farmers to make sure that they build that financial security and resilience, that they are better viewed by the service providers as business entities, and not, okay, these are receivers of aid or receivers of beneficiary. They are transacting businesses that needs to be supported. And Community Pass, hopefully, is that bridge to that prosperity that we want to build for them.
I like that. I'm tempted to take that as your parting shot, but I'm just going to give you like 30 seconds to speak to the people who are watching you this morning as far as Community Pass is concerned and how much of an impact it has on people's lives. What would you say?
Good. So thanks very much again. It was really a pleasure to be here. Time flies, of course.
It really does.
I think a couple of things that are important to really note. And for me, I like to take the African lens. From a Pan-African perspective, Mastercard is extremely interested and will remain a very important and strong player in the African continent. Our commitment in this particular continent is from a digitization perspective. It's how do we make sure that we empower businesses to become better? How do we become the path to that prosperity of these businesses? And how do we work with our people towards that prosperity? Now, for us, it's beyond just a solution. In my view, we want to embed the culture of digital inclusivity, the culture of trust, that once and for all, individuals, communities, and businesses as a last mile will be looked at as transacting individuals capable of receiving a service and paying for a service. And it's not a favor that is being done for them.
I see that. I see that. Very powerful way to end the conversation because, again, digital exclusion equals what? Financial exclusion. And we do not want that. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Kuba, Vice President, Community Pass Market Development, Sub-Saharan Africa. And this is from Mastercard. We say thank you so much for coming by today. Amazing and useful nuggets, really, that we gotten from today's conversation. So, again, the conversation, continues online on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter because, again, like Mr. Daniel said, time flies. And we wish we could speak about this for hours, but we have to end the show right now. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Special thanks to everyone who put together the show and made sure that it is a success. I'm pretty sure you've learned a lot from today's conversation. So let's speak again on our socials. But for now, have yourselves a lovely day ahead, and I'll see you next week on Monday, same time, same place, right here on Your World. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe. Goodbye.